Welcome, everybody, to the ABJ Podcast. We are back, episode 100. We have done it. We have nailed it. We're here. I'm super excited for this one. I can't stress enough how much this one means to me. Got a chance to meet this person at PPW. Got to help with the meet and greet and sat with him for a few hours and really pick his brain and talk. And I believe I was between him and Brian Kendrick. If you ever have a chance to sit between two people in the world, that's two you definitely have to. It was a very, very entertaining, fun day. It was nonstop smiles and laughs. Then later on, got to work with him on the independent scene at the Win, where he got to team up with CMD, which I'm super excited for because now I've officially had all three members of CMD on the podcast. Very, very great team between Boom, Deshaun, and now Lince Dorado. Make sure you check out the links below to support all things ABJ, whether it be follow me on social media or buy merchandise, or all my guest links. We'll talk about, you can follow them on Twitch, YouTube, as well as their gear making business. A lot of people aren't realizing now that Lince Dorado not only makes his own gear and his own masks, but he will do it for other people as well. And how dope would it be to have your own gear made by someone who makes fantastic gear? I'm not going to waste any time. I'm not going to waste your time or his. Sorry, not my time is for everybody. But let's bring in the Lucha Lit Lince Dorado. What's going on?
Yes, Lucha Lit, Lince Dorado. That's it, baby. Man, what an intro. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Appreciate being on the podcast. I'm ready to get Lucha Lit with my boy, and let's get it.
Man, super excited for this one. You got to hang out with you at PPW, and like I said, between you and Brian Cage, boy, that was a fun day.
Was it Cage or Kendrick?
Kendrick. Did I say Cage? Sorry. Cage just retweeted me yesterday, so I'm still Cage, on that high. Yes, Brian Kendrick. Sorry, Brian Kendrick.
Man, Kendrick.
Yeah, Brian Cage actually screen recorded I'm sorry. Yeah, Brian Cage just screen recorded something off my Instagram and put on his Twitter, and it did very well. So I'm still kind of Brian Cage mode, but Brian Kendrick, yes.
I know exactly which one you're talking about. Yeah, I know the video you're talking about. But both guys are great guys, by the way. Yes. But Kendrick, man, that dude is one of the best cats I've ever met. I knew him a little bit before WWE. Spent a lot of time with him in WWE, and after WWE, man, it's great to run into him every once in a while.
Yeah, it was really fun to hang out with both of you and to pick your brain. So I kind of want to dive into right away is the gear making stuff, right? So your gear is fantastic. It's always been something that catches me. I've always been obsessed with the idea of the Lucha Libre style because of the masks and the character, and there's so much more that goes into it because I'm very character driven. I love character style. But the Lucha Libre adds a whole nother layer to it when it comes to like each piece of the mask to me has to mean something. You don't just put it on to make it do nothing, right? Growing up, I used to always like make your characters on the video games, and I would put my guy in a mask. And I always stole one person's mask. And then I found out that he's one of your favorites as well. I always stole Psychosis's mask because I always thought his was the best.
A lot of people always did that, man. Like his mask was so unique. I think it was like one of the first masks that I saw that had things protruding off of it, like the horns. And I was like, bro, what is – and like just everything about his whole outfit was so incredible. But yeah, I also created dudes on – all my wrestling games. I have one really funny, quick story to tell on WWF Raw for the PlayStation 1. That was probably like the first time you can create somebody. And I created this dude that, I mean, he was jacked. He was awesome looking, but his name was Default. Like, like when you go to type in your name, it was like Default. And I was like, damn, that's an awesome name. I had no idea what it meant by the way. And I was like, oh shit, that's pretty sick. And then, later on, I realized it was like such a generic name, like that's the default name that they put in there. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make it work. So I would always cut promos on my friends that would play me. And it was like, you're about to lose by default. Like, and like, it's so cheesy and stupid, but like, I thought it was like an awesome name after realizing it wasn't that awesome.
Yeah. Now, one of the big things what your comes to your gear and the stuff you make, you recently had I feel like this is like the best product placement of all time because one of the biggest names in WWE leaves and wants to forge a name for herself, and she's going to chase her dream. She thinks she's the best in the world and she wants to prove it. Goes to Japan. She's known as an Eddie Guerrero fan for days and days. And she shows up and she pays homage to Eddie in her black tiger mask. And as I click it, it's not going in. That's great. I was supposed to put a picture up there of Sasha, or Mercedes Monet, and you made that mask for her.
I did. I actually made that's the second mask for of the Black Tiger mask that I made, because I had made one originally. I was trying to reteach myself Illustrator so that way I can take a picture of a mask since I don't have the actual mask, and learn how to make the templates for, like, the eyes, all the pieces that you see on the mask. So one of the first ones I did was the Black Tiger mask, and the first one I did, I was actually going to give it to a friend who's also a big Eddie Guerrero fan. And I was like, you know what? I'm always going to make one better. So I'm going to give him the first one. And he ended up loving it. It was for his birthday. I had posted about it. And then 15 minutes later, like legit, I got a text message. Hey, who made that mask? I was like, well, sis, I did. Come on, man. And she was like, well, listen, I'm doing something in Japan. Can you make me one? And I was like, all right, when do you leave? She was like, 3 days. I'm like, ugh. I was like, okay, I could definitely do it. I could do it. I actually like those jobs like where it's rushed. I got like 2 or 3 days to do it because it is a challenge. I like being challenged, but I was very fortunate that she had asked me, and she could ask anybody, even the legendary gear maker that she got in Japan to make it. But for her to ask me and then ask me to make something else for her after that, like, fam, she's great people. Like, Mercedes has always been great people to me. I love training with her. I love her passion. I love everything that she does in the ring. And like, that's one of my people outside of the ring I could hang out with and not talk about wrestling. We could talk about anything other than wrestling and forget that we're both in the same business together. So yeah, it was a really good honor for me to make that mask. We were actually going to make some other masks for her, like 5 of the Black Tiger ones to sell. But she ended up getting her, and I didn't focus on your health besides, all the other stuff. It'll follow through. But yeah, I love it, man. I love that Black Tiger mask. I actually want to make one for my collection.
Yeah. Is that something like now you have on your Instagram? So if you want a great Instagram follow, make sure you go follow Insta. He's always going live on there, and he's making gear and talking about gear and just doing like Q&A sessions all the time. So it's a great way to have conversations with him and learn about him and see the stuff he makes. I actually jumped in there not too long ago, and I was like, man, if I'm going to commission a mask, there's one I always wanted, and you kind of talked about it. I want an Ultra Manus black mask. Like that would be one, like put in the back there. Like I've always loved that mask. Got to do commentary with him on a show.
His mask,
and it was amazing.
His mask back in the day was so cool. Like, okay, so I started in Chikara, and we talked about it a little bit, and it was advertised as like Lucha Libre. And then as I got into it, I realized like, well, this is interesting Lucha Libre. It's not real authentic Lucha Libre, but it's Lucha Libre. And like everybody had a mask, and that doesn't make it Lucha Libre, but the fact that it has a mask does resemble Lucha Libre. But Ultra Mantis Black had a very unique mask because, like, again, it was protruding off his face. The way he talked, the way he presented himself in the character, just made it so interesting. And going from Ultra Mantis to Ultra Mantis Black, people forget like his original mask was so different. So when he came back with the order and everything, he actually probably was one of the first guys to inspire me to like up my mask game because of the material and stuff. I mean, he was getting it from people back in the day that were like really good gear makers and mask makers before I started making my stuff. And I was obsessed with the craftsmanship and the material. And like I said, just the way it looked so different. It looked so cool.
Yeah. Now, you knew early on that professional wrestling was going to be a thing for you. There was never a doubt in your mind. You knew from jump that this was going to be an industry you're going to be in. You're from Jersey and then moved and then came back. And there's a whole story. If you want to hear more of his life story, please go check out Oral Sessions, or I think it's just called Sessions now. Renee Paquette. Great interview. I don't want to rehash a lot of that because I want people to listen to Renee because she's the absolute GOAT. Also, go listen to the interview with Chris Van Fleet, another person I respect highly in this business. Got to meet him twice. genuine sweetheart. But
Yes.
what I want, one of the questions I have is, we're in a situation now where, especially in WWE, where people, when they're brought in, they're not really getting to keep their names anymore. And there's a lot of times where your name doesn't always follow you. But you've been Lince Dorado this entire time. How do you navigate that? How are you able to keep that name and carry it on through company to company?
So before WWE, I trademarked my name. I kind of developed a brand rather than like, hey, this is my name. No, this is my brand. And when people see that, they're like, okay, he does bring notoriety and views, because it's not the when like right now I'm not doing anything spectacular in the ring. We're having a conversation, and it's all through the Lince Dorado brand, not my real person, not the person behind the mask. And I was very smart. Like I'm not just a wrestler. I'm not a professional wrestler. I'm not just a lucha libre, luchador. I am a businessman at heart. I love math and numbers. I love money. I love wrestling and pro wrestling. So in my mind, you have to be the cactus jack of all trades in pro wrestling, businessman and pro wrestler. But notice I said businessman first before pro wrestler, because the pro wrestlers won't make money. The businessmen will make money. And for me, I knew that I could take my brand if I got it to a certain level, I wouldn't have to change my name. And honestly, I don't think there was ever one time or a conversation that they asked me to change my name. The people who brought me in and recommended me for WWE at that initial time, they brought me in as Lince Dorado. And like I said, never once questioned, changing the name. They knew I owned it. At one point, WWE was using it as a registered, registration trademark, so that they could use like action figures and make stuff for me. But that kind of helped me out too, because I was able to haggle a different percentage of things that you get, from that, because they're using my name. I'm not using their name to make them money. They're using my name to make themselves money. So I was able to put myself in a position where I could be better off, ask for a little bit more. It's not a crazy amount, but the fact that that was a blessing in disguise helped me out. And I actually snagged into a little situation after WWE where they try to go behind my back and trademark it, and I stopped it right away and officially got it back. It was like a scary situation, because I was like, man, what do I just go by Lince? Do I just go by Lucha Lit? At one point it was good to just be Lucha Lit, and then I was like, you know what, no, I'm gonna fight for my name back. And they gave it to me back, and I have my plaque right here that says I own my name, I own Lucha Lit, and ready to take over wrestling with it.
That's fantastic. Now, what created it? How did you create this character? Where did you get the idea for the name, the idea of what the character is going to be, and how it's going to be presented?
So, okay, first the name. The name was given to me by some of my trainers. So, like, I came from the backyard. Me and Deshaun came from the backyard, and a couple other guys. We had a really crazy backyard fed that a lot of guys that you actually see on TV came out of. And, we just stepped up our game by going to CZW or these other schools to get trained. And they knew that we were backyarders, because, they followed us and we talked. And, it's a different aura that you have and confidence when you come into a wrestling school, rather than like a brand new person. You're very timid, but as a backyarder, you're like, oh, I could do this. Because we had a ring. We had it wasn't the greatest ring, but we had a ring that I was able to learn how to bump and hit the ropes before going into pro wrestling training. So one day they asked us, it was actually, I think the first day or second or first day that we were ever there. There was 2 classes. It was a Wednesday beginners and a Monday or a Tuesday advanced. So we went to the Wednesday. We killed it. It was like easy peasy, like, honestly. And I'm not even boasting about it. Like, it was pretty easy, the transition. And then they were like, all right, you know what? You 3 come on Tuesday. That's the advanced class. And we'll go from there. So one of the things at the end of that second day, I ended up trying to springboard, because they were like, oh, you could springboard? Go ahead, show us something. So I was like, all right, cool, whatever. So I sprungboard, but I fell to the floor, but I landed on my feet like a cat. And I remember Claudio Castagnoli, he was there, and he was like, man, you're like a cat. Like, can you do something? So I did something else that I landed on my feet, and I think that just stuck with me. And when it came time to debut, they gave me Lince Dorado, because I was teaming up with El Pantera, who was also in Chikara and WWF And he was a Mexican luchador. Awesome. I still talk to him to this day. I actually just saw him 2 weeks ago. And it just made sense that we were both feline characters. And but there wasn't really any character there. It was just a feline cat. So I was like, okay, well, let's start from the beginning. What do cats do? How can I translate that to WWE, or how can I translate that to wrestling? So there was like some cat things I was doing, and then when I got to WWE, I try to be what I thought they wanted a luchador to be rather than me. So I think if that was me, I think I would have been more successful. But afterwards, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to be me under the mask. Like, I'm just going to be me, just wear a mask. So a lot of like, the extravagant robes, like, first of all, I'm a bum. I like wearing shorts and t-shirts. Like, the robe is very like,
it's the Northeast in us.
hiding something. Yeah. So I do like it. The robe, actually, the idea was given to me by Tony Nese, because I actually, after one of the tapings for NXT, me, Tony Nese, and Aria Daivari went back to Nese's house. We had a little smoke session, and we were just talking, and he comes out with this smoking jacket. And I was like, brother, what is that? And he's like, it's my smoking jacket. My wife gave it to me. And we were like smoking cigars, and I'm like, and all day I just kept thinking about it. I was like, man, that'd be kind of cool if I had that, but just longer. So I made one that was awesome. And then I was like, you know what? This kind of reminds me of like Hugh Hefner and the most interested man in the world. Cause I always love those commercials of like the most interested man. He does this, he does that, he does this, he does that. And I kept telling WWE, I was like, hey man, we're just like you. The only difference is I go fruit shopping in my mask. Like, I go swimming in my mask and Speedo. Like, why can't we do these things that make people interesting? They're like, no, you just do lucha guy. All right, whatever. Going back, I was like, you know what? I think I want to be the most interesting luchador of all time. Not the best, not the greatest, because I know that comes with time. I want to be the most interesting luchador of all time. Most interesting and entertaining. So that's where that part comes from when it comes to like the personality and like, the gear. Basically the smoke jacket from Tony Nese inspired me to at least my entrance robe. That one, every one of them, it always goes back to like his and Hugh Hefner. I always liked his stuff, and like I think it's so synonymous with Hugh Hefner. That's why a lot of that personality also comes out too. Whenever I'm like, show me your kitties are doing this, and people are like, oh, he's doing one thing, but I'm really doing another thing. But yeah, I just wanted to be and always be like the most interesting and entertaining luchador. So that's why one day I made a list. I made it a couple times, but I made it a list more recently of what luchadors were doing, like popular luchadors, what they were wearing, what they sounded like. And I just decided, you know what, let me make a column for the opposite. And that's what I want to do. I want to do the complete opposite. So honestly, there's nobody really like me because of my ability to talk both English and Spanish. And then I would say the next group of guys who are similar like me business-wise would be like a Penta and a Phoenix. And that's it. Everybody else, I feel like, is just kind of like generic luchadorish, very just come in, do some moves, and get out. There's no real personality there. There's no, things for me to be like, to grasp onto you, rather than like, oh, I just watch this match and I'll be done. I don't have to watch another match of yours. I rather than be like, I need to watch all his matches.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that the thing that bummed me out the most when it came to the side, like watching like the WB side of things, and I'm not bearing WB. I'm a giant fan. Like, I've been a fan forever. But it's kind of like they take these characters and these people from the independent scene, they strip them of everything that makes them special. They try to make it their own, and it doesn't really work all the time. And I felt like the Lucha House Party, like when you guys were towards the end there, when they were letting you guys put on longer matches on TV and you were able to go in there and do that work and that showcase, you were winning. Like, you were getting over with the fans. People wanted to see more of the Lucha House Party, not just for the dancing and the fun part of like, they can all work. They're all really, really talented. Like, there's so many people that are in WWE now that like people don't realize how talented they are, but they're under that restrictor plate of they have to wrestle a WWE style match.
Well, okay, here's the thing too. WWE never tried to strip down anybody. They gave you suggestions, they gave you opportunities to, hey, make this your own kind of thing. So when we got
Hmm.
presented with the Lucha House Party idea, that was my idea first. I was like, oh, I want to be, Metallic wasn't doing anything, Kalisto wasn't doing anything, and I had just got back from being in trouble. So I was like, you know what? Let us be put together because we're kind of like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles slash Charlie's Angels, where yeah, we're a group, but we all have different personalities, and let our personalities like shine. Let us, do. I love those. I love doing like lucha outside the ring, like backstage or like in the street or something. Like
Hmm.
something always went down. But the original presentation that I had pitched was I wanted us to be like in suits, mask guys in masks, like the Santo Blue Demons and Mil Mascaras. I always thought that was cool, and we were gonna have something like kind of environment. Like we created our own environment. But WWE never really was like, hey, you have to act this way. You have to wrestle this way. You have to, yeah, there is a WWE style, but there's no real like, punch kick, like things like that. But
Yeah.
especially after COVID, I felt like people were like getting hurt. So they were like, okay, we need some teams here. And we were like good or reliable. And people would put us in those spots on TV or the pay-per-views that we were able to like shine and showcase. But we wanted more. We wanted the credibility that here's the thing, fans aren't dumb, wrestlers aren't dumb either. So when I saw, and this was my argument all the time, I said, hey, whenever you see our like or on the screen, people already know that we're going to do good, great things, but we're going to lose. And how does that help us create with equity and we were getting those reactions and people were seeing it, that's when they started putting us in more spots with like Riddle and the Elimination Chamber, this and that. But at the end of the day, WWE is not a wrestling company. It's an entertaining movie company. And they just needed some lucha guys. They needed some lucha guys, and we just fit the bill. And they didn't really have anything else for us, even though we were pitching ideas left and right. And when I say we, I meant me. But it is what it is. I learned a ton of stuff from WWE, and still learn some stuff. Honestly, too, I go back every other month or every month once a week for a whole week. I'm sorry, and I train people because they understand that. One, I understand the style and I understand the excitement of bringing like lucha libre moves or independent moves to the WWE style. So that's why we were very successful because we were able to understand the style and still stay unique to the lucha libre style too.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when it comes to the mask and the designs, your mask has taken many different forms, going back to the Chikara days of eyes closed and a small design on the forehead, chin wide open, always had the pointy cat ears. And then early on with the
Mm-hmm.
Cruiserweight Classics, it had the teeth to it and the mohawk and almost the
Yeah.
frills on the side instead of the hair. And then uh, my favorite part about the newer mask is the cat on the side. It's almost like for my example is like when Jeff Hardy paints his face, people don't realize it's a side profile of another face painted on his face. And
Yep.
that cat almost
Yep.
like blends in nicely into your mask. Um what do you take pieces of, like where do you get the idea when you say like, okay, I want this in here, like like yeah, I'm just saying, like, how do you put that together on a mask? I don't know how to word that any differently. I'm sorry.
No. You're good. You're good. So okay. Right now, my masks they're all the same. I try to stick to one color. So I'm like, this month was all pink. So I was like, I'm gonna make a mask of all different pink textures. So yeah, going back to the original Chikara mask, the one that you showed, it was very golden black. I'm a golden lynx, so why not? Yeah, it definitely has to have ears. It had no hair at that point. I think at
Mhm.
that point I couldn't even grow a beard. I think it was like 16, 17 years old. I couldn't grow a beard. And it was like very generic. It just looked like a cat mask. I wore that mask forever. I mean, like again, I did change like some texture, but the mask design was very the same forever. And then right before WWE, Actually, I had two masks made. I upgraded the Chikara mask to this one. Actually, I still have it. This is where the original, like, the tiger or the cat on the face came from. The eyes were still closed, and this is the original new mask, I guess, if you could say that. Pantera made this one. El Pantera, he made that one for me. So from that one, I loved the tiger on the, or the cat on the side. I loved the hair on that side, even though at that point I didn't have the beard where it could flow in together. I just thought that was cool because I don't know, putting hair on a mask makes it look more real, I guess. Even though I'm a cat, it
And no
doesn't look
one
real,
does the
but it does look
facial
real.
hair really. Like the facial hair aspect doesn't really
No,
get
I mean,
used
they
very
always,
often,
I see
and it blends nice with
sideburns.
your beard.
Yeah, I see sideburns. No, yeah, and that was by accident, honestly, because even this mask, the one that I just showed you, goes up a little higher here for like the hair, so it kind of looks like it's literally part of my face. But when I was transitioning to WWE, one, I was like, okay, Cruiserweight Classic. I know I gotta come out with like a brand new, not look, but like outfit. So I had talked to a gentleman named Jesse Hernandez out of California, San Diego area. He does a lot of cool, Mexican art slash. He works with Mass Republic. He did a lot of WWE's shirts. He was a great artist, and I still talk to him to this day. And I said, hey, man, look, I'm doing CWC, the Cruiserweight Classic. I want to come up with a brand new killer design like that. They're going to be like, whoa, this is what am I looking at? And the only thing I told him was like, think about like Psychosis. Like when you look at Psychosis back in the day, people were like, whoa, like now, they just couldn't stop seeing him just because of the way he looked. So then that's when we came up with like the teeth, the mohawk, the hair from the side went away and went to the top. And the eyes went closed again, and it was a complete change from the Lince that everybody knew from before. And after experimenting with that a couple months on the main roster, WWE, this is your selling point, your eyes. So first thing to go was the eyes, and then I was like, all right, cool. Now people could see my eyes because I am very charismatic and expressive. But then, like when I would talk, people couldn't understand me because the teeth would cover my mouth. So it'd be like, talking to a wall, basically. So those had to go away. And then eventually I was like, you know what? This is too different than the original, Jesse Hernandez design. I would like the original one. This one seems too forced. Let me go back to my original one. So after I had came up with that concept of like going back to the original one, I actually got in trouble and I went home for like a couple months. And then when I got back, I was like, I'm going to come back with the original design. I'm just going to change some stuff around. So, we changed this piece a little bit. We added a border. We added some gems. The eyes actually changed. Instead of the eyes being kind of like a Rey Mysterio-esque, we kind of added these jagged edges, to kind of like simulate like tiger, not tiger eyes, but like, lynx eyes and stuff like that. The nose has always kind of been the same, even though the nose actually is kind of paying homage to the Black Tiger, one of the masks I saw back in the day for, when I was researching feline masks was this. And I was like, that's pretty clean, not too crazy, but like, I think that's pretty clean. And then, just the hair experimented for a while with like different colors, but afterwards I was like, you know what? The hair is always going to be black because my hair is always black. So I don't like the idea of like it blending in and then like all of a sudden it looks two different colors. So I always tell when I make it, it's always black. Or if somebody else makes it, I'm like, the mask design has to be the same. You can't change anything. Like if this is black and always black, it always stays black. So I've turned away masks, or people like try to give me masks to sign that the hair's a wrong color, and I'm not going to sign it, so it's not trying to be rude. It's, just like my name and my trademark, I also trademark my likeness. So nobody can sell anything with my mask, any of my masks, because I have all three of them, trademarked. So at the end of the day, yeah, the mask is and has always been the calling, the focal point of Lince. The gear is just secondary.
Yeah. Well, this is just kind of pull the curtain back a little bit. We're recording this in October of 2023. This will air in early January 2024. You're hinting at possibly going forward in the year on this new year without the mask? Is that something you're still kicking over? Is that a definite, or is that something that you're going to do the mask when you come out and then wrestle without it? Like, what's the plan for that?
So I'll keep the plan to myself, but what if I told you I've already been wrestling without the mask and nobody's noticed?
I'd agree.
I don't like to put my business out there as far as like, I'm going to do this
Yeah.
and then go do it. I kind of like
Mhm.
planting seeds. So I have, for probably the past like 8 months, have been pulling a Bruce Wayne and Batman on the independent scene, and nobody knows that it's me. I love that. I love that idea of, and I've told this to promoters when they book me, as me, book me as a green boy, put me in those scramble matches, put me in those like let this season green boy shine. But at the end of the day, it is something I played with because the idea of the duality, similar to like Batman and Bruce Wayne, has always intrigued me. I always like that idea of like that shock factor of like, wait, this guy's been this, and especially in the Northeast where wrestling is so good, and to do it with like such a high level of people and companies that have been around forever, it is pretty cool. So to answer your question, moving forward, you will probably see me wrestle without the mask, but that doesn't mean Lince is gone forever.
Yeah.
So 2024 should be very interesting.
Yeah, and how you were kind of saying too, like you have done other characters. You've already said it on other podcasts, but you've wrestled in Impact as a different character. That one is on the Wikipedia, but some of the other ones aren't yet. I know you kind of teased one possibly recently where you were more of a heelish character. That was something you kind of did. I don't remember the character's name though. It's still cat related though, right? With the white gear.
Balam. Oh,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
white
yeah.
gear or the
Were you
okay,
poison mist or
so
was
I'll
that
tell you
some?
all the characters I've done.
Yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so here's the characters I did. We'll start from the beginning. So I did Call Me Kevin for Kaiju Big Battle. All my job was to do a moonsault on G4 TV for 3 years. It was pretty awesome. And then I did Shiva number 12, which is a soccer playing goat. I did that in Chikara a couple of times and in Mexico as well. And then I
Shakar has the
did
wild ones.
Unicorn. Oh, wild ones, but also Kaiju Big Battle has some wild ones, like Unicorn Party. Like that's actually one of the ideas that the party idea translated to WWE. I was like, oh, I'll just take the word party, which sounds fun, and just bring it to WWE from Unicorn Party. So I did that, and then in Impact and TNA, I did Balam, which is basically like a jaguar. We did an art exhibit where this guy created some characters for a live action art exhibit, and one of them was Balam, and I ended up using that at Impact. And then obviously Lince, but then there's this like other form of Lince where Lince is very fun and juvenile and very like lucha libre, but then there's violence, VIOLINCE, my name.
Mm-hmm.
And that one is just a little bit more like really me, like very legit. A lot of people know that I love wrestling. I love jujitsu. I love judo. I love fighting. I love like just combat and MMA. So that one is a little bit for me to like kind of express myself that way and not have to worry about high flying and things like that. Not saying that I'm staying grounded, but that was an idea that I came up with Rocky because me and him had a really cool story, and I thought the payoff with him, ripping my mask because he took my mask off at one show, and then he ripped it at this one, and I said, well, I have to get revenge. So what if instead of cowering away, I use it to my advantage? So we spent all day painting my body, and I made that bodysuit the night before. I made the whole outfit basically that same week. And that match is probably one of my favorite matches of this year, just the way that it was executed and the way that the finish came out was exactly how I thought. And I loved it. I love it. I'm actually thinking about putting that up or displaying it because of, what it means to me. But that violence, LINCE, a lot of people would be like violence, like that doesn't make sense. Like, violence, it sounds right. Even though it's Lince, when people read it, it does look like violence, which, I try to portray in the ring as that character. It's still Lince, but it's just violence. So,
it's like when Jushin did that darker side, or like it wasn't heel, but it was just you're getting a different side of Jushin. He's going to be darker. You're getting a more violent version of this character. Like I love when masked wrestlers do that. It's so exciting. And you Poison Misted, which is my favorite,
and that's where the idea. That was where the idea came from. Was watching Liger wrestle Muda, and I was like, man, I even said to Rocky, I was like, I would love to do something like this, and finally I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna pitch the idea, and when we get there, and he loved it, everybody loved it, and then when it came off, like I just said this to somebody else, I said people don't pop for like because the match is over 1, 2, 3. They pop because I brought them on this roller coaster of crazy emotion where they're so installed in what we're doing, not what we're doing, but like what we're doing, like not the moves, but what we're trying to portray of that. And, once I hit him with that shooting star press and I hit him with that 1, 2, 3, right after the miss, like people were so erupt, and like people talk about it to this day, even though I'm like, well, it was just another match, but it really wasn't. But, I'm always, until I'm done, it's just another match,
Yeah. Just recently, just to put somebody else over on the scene, and actually you just recently worked him at Three Legacies in Lancaster, Ricardo Rodriguez's promotion, Mantequilla. Mantequilla did this really cool storyline at House of Glory with him and Casey Navarro, where Casey kept taking his mask off and he would then lose the mask because he was trying so hard to cover. And then he ripped the mask off and he just didn't care anymore. And it was like one of those moments you're talking about where like it's an angle we've seen 100 times, but the way they portrayed it and used the mask to do it, like it was done so well. I'm a huge fan of that guy.
Yeah, I love Montague. I wish, and we will run that match back because I was having some travel issues and it was just a big mess. And I think when we got there, it wasn't executed as much as we wanted to, or as well as we wanted it. But he's definitely one of the best in the Northeast, man. That one match ain't gonna change him. You know what I'm saying? I think he'll take it, learn from it, and give him 5 years. He'll be top anywhere in the East Coast.
Totally agree. How has it been, actually kind of rewind, going back to the earlier days, you look back at your earlier days and working the Jakara and the Dragon Gates and stuff, and you see the people you've come up with, and you said we were in the backyards together and we were at the Chikars together. And now these guys and girls are like, they're on TV, like they're selling out Wembley Stadium. They're killing it. They're the competition to what we now know as WWE, and they're giving the world of professional wrestling a new life and a new run for its money. What do you think makes the Northeast scene? And I'm not just saying PA, New York. I mean, it's the whole Northeast coast. Like, what do you think makes us in this area so special that we're that the talent are coming out and be able to accomplish this?
Well, I think like two things: the abundance of wrestling, whether it's good or bad, is there. So people have a canvas there to try to find themselves quickly rather than take years of development. I mean, the cream of the crop is there. The schools that people all go to: Monster Factory, Cheesecake Factory. What the heck? Cheeseburgers.
I love that.
Cheeseburgers Dojo. Yeah.
The Worldwide Dojo.
Now you got. Yeah, the Worldwide Dojo. Then you got Catch Point now. Yes. You got Chaotic in the Northeast, or in that New England area. Johnny Rods is up there still. I mean, these are people who train people who've made money. So it just makes sense to go to those kind of places. Like, it's hard for me, and this is why I do selective training. It's hard for me to put my name on somebody when I know they're not going to do nothing. They're just, they're doing it for fun. But it's gratifying for me when I could see somebody hungry, somebody willing to leave their home, somebody willing to drive 12, 15, 24 hours to go to a show for, little to nothing. And that's the kind of dedication that you need. And it's hard to do that like in the West Coast because everything's so far, and in Texas, everything's so far and it's all spread out that, it's hard to find that consistent work. And you're going to wrestle the same people over and over again. That you're not going to get any better. You're going to get better wrestling each other. But when it comes to being like comfort, you're never going to get better. And I think the people in the East Coast are the ones who get out often and, wrestle everywhere and anywhere and any predicament that they can and where they want, and they're hungry, man. Like, you can find wrestling training every day of the week if you really want to, and I'm sure you can anywhere else, but again, to find it with those who made money in wrestling is hard to do. So the East Coast is where it's at, man. I think I will say this though, in the last couple of years I feel like the East Coast is oversaturated with people, but that's not a bad thing because people need people to work. But it is bad for the business because as a promoter, it's easier to pay somebody less money to do the same job, as you. But I always say, like, you're not getting the notoriety, they're not getting the social media, support. You're not getting eyes on it. You're just, you're focusing on maybe one or two matches rather than the entire card. But I love returning to the East Coast. It's one of my favorite places to go, even though now West Coast is pretty popping, man. Like I will say, there's a lot of competition for the East Coast. But the West Coast, I think the longevity has also helped it out. It's been here forever. One of the original places to start. Like I said, who is who comes out of the West Coast or the East Coast.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. The Mania weekend is always the big thing, and last year with everything going over to the West Coast side of things, and we got to see, like, the world got to see a new side of wrestling coming out of that area, and we got to see that uprising of new schools and new talent. Like this year's Mania, man, like I'm pumped, like to see the collective and everything that's going to come out of that East Coast. Hell yeah, man. That Philly scene is gonna be crazy. And it's the Philly, it's the New York, it's the Jersey, it's all gonna come there, and it's gonna be a battle. And everyone right now on the independent wrestling scene in the Northeast, they all know it's coming, and they're all hungry, and they are out there every weekend killing themselves to get that spot or to be seen. And it's a good time to be an independent wrestling fan.
Yeah, I mean, WrestleMania weekend is not only just for WWE, it's for everybody. All over the world, people come to see, wrestlers from independents, international, WWE, TV. It doesn't matter. That is WrestleMania weekend. It is everybody's WrestleMania weekend to show out and show face. I think this year in particular, or coming up in Philadelphia, is going to be very important because we do return to a very hot spot for professional wrestling and independent wrestling. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people who want to be on these shows, but very few that are going to actually be on it. And those who aren't on it shouldn't be discouraged. Still go to the shows, still show face, and learn something, because at the end of the day, out of sight, out of mind. If you're not there, nobody's going to know that you're there. If you're not present, nobody knows that you exist. We're living in the moment of the now, not tomorrow or the next day, like of the now. So now is the time to get your name out there, get on these shows. Don't wait until January to try to get on these shows. Hit up people now. Like, yay, I'm going to be in the area. It's an investment. I know people right now. I'll use Matt Cardona, for example, and he doesn't mind me sharing this.
Love this.
Matt Cardona will, the best. He will fly himself to a convention and make his money. Like, he invests in himself. I just talked to somebody else on Twitter. I was talking about making gear today, and somebody was like, I'm doing the same. And I'm like, great, brother. Like, investment. That's how I see it. You're investing money in yourself because nobody else is going to invest in you. So, these people right now, if you're trying to be on WrestleMania weekend at any of these shows, you got to invest in yourself now. Get the gear, get the new promo pictures, get the social media, put out some content. Doesn't matter what kind of content it is, good or bad. Put out content, man, so that way people can be like, oh, okay, this guy could cut a promo, or this guy could, he's reliable to do this and that. I can make content out of this guy, rather than like, here's a guy that'll just do, his spot and get out. Like, no. Invest is the name. But yeah, this year's WrestleMania in Philadelphia, at where the Eagles play, where it's at, Lincoln Financial Field, EAGLES, the number one team, Eagles. I'm hoping that there's a Super Bowl and then, a WrestleMania in Philly this year. So it's going to be great.
Possibly a World Series championship coming this year too.
Oh, I guess too. I forgot, bro. 10-0. My gosh, Philly. I'm
Crazy.
a Philadelphia fan. Doesn't matter
I'm
what
not.
team it is.
I am not, but I
Flyers,
respect the
Phillies.
hell out of them. Yeah,
Who's your
I'm a
team?
Washington fan. I like all the Washington teams, but I respect the hell out of the Philadelphia fan base and that city and what like
What?
I as when I was younger I hated them, couldn't stand them. But as I keep getting older, my buddy Brian keeps telling me I'm turning to the dark side because I they're just a fun team to watch. Like, they're a fun fan base to watch. Like they're entertaining, especially as a pro wrestling fan.
It's
They're the best.
I was good. It's so they're so passionate. Like no matter what game you go to, what kind of sport you go to, right? For Philadelphia, they're so passionate. That's why also too wrestlers hate coming to Philly because they sometimes don't thrive in it. It's okay, Philadelphia loves who they love and they hate who they hate, which is mostly everybody. But if you can make it in Philly, man, like that's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, since now being on the scene, you're been heavily featured in MLW. You've had some runs and some matches and Impact. Just recently had a banger in AEW. I actually messaged you. I was like, "Oh my god, I hope I don't lose the opportunity to talk to you because I want you to be in those places." And obviously, as a Northeast fan and a Chikara fan, and seeing the stuff that came from there, well, there's a lot of cool classic matchups that you can redo in that company again. You, Kingston, you, Claudio. There's a lot going on there that you and Mox, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of fun things
Yeah,
that can happen.
that is I like to call AEW Chikara 2.0 because there's a lot of Chikara guys and girls that are there now. When I went there a couple weeks ago for the first time, it literally felt like a Chikara locker room. Just everybody was older and not in a bad way older, just like older,
Chuck,
mature. And
Bryce.
Chuck, Bryce, Orange, Claudio, like you say, Kingston 2.0, Heidi Lovelace, like all these people like were in Chikara at one point or the other. And it felt very like normal, man, like no stress. And I was stressed going into, I was like, new environment, knew this. But yeah, just the idea of, and I was actually supposed to wrestle Kingston too. One of my matches that day was supposed to be Kingston. And then I was actually supposed to win the 4-way to wrestle Kingston at Collision that Saturday, but I couldn't make that Saturday. So, they had to move some stuff around.
Make
Yeah.
it happen.
So I think,
Get back in there.
I think now looking back at where I was almost 20 years ago and to where I'm at now, I think all our matches would be so much different way in a good way. Even just wrestling Claudio a couple years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it would be so different because we've all grown, in a great way. So it's exciting to see what matchups are coming up. And I'm actually going back to AEW in Philadelphia on the 25th of October, which is, basically home. So, to come back to AEW near my hometown, a place where I created history both in and out of WWE, is going to be great no matter what I do. I just hope I'm doing something.
Yeah. Well, I actually did on our other content that we do like wrestling reviews and stuff. And we did an episode of reviewing an old Chikara show from February 28th, 2010, A World of Confronting Illusion. And it was in Pottsville, Pennsylvania, which is like the next town over from me. Tony Deppen has a brewery there now, which is always doing wrestling related stuff. But this is like, you have the unstable versus the throwbacks. I love the throwbacks. One of those guys is a very good professional wrestler. Brody Lee versus Green Ant. Yeah, Daisy Hayes, Sarah Del Rey, Hallow Wicked, and Frightmare was a fantastic one. Claudio and Aries versus the Bad Boys, the Portal and Super Smash Bros, where those guys are really cool. Akuma versus Kingston, and then your match there was a Taurus, Tim Don'ts, you, Pink Ant, Quack, Jigsaw, Helios, which that guy's another great masked wrestler in there and a few other places, and now no longer wearing a mask. And Equinox, and then the Order of Neon Solar Temple versus the Colony, which is a lot of good people there. But that happened in my hometown, and I didn't even know it existed. And then going back and rewatch it, and I'm looking at that venue that I've seen so many local bands, and I'm like, bro, like 90% of TV is on this card, and it happened for probably $10 in my hometown. It's a perfect example of why we did that, to say support your local independent wrestling, because 80% of that card is taking over television wrestling at this point in time, whether it's AEW, Japan, WWE. It's all coming from the Northeast, and go support that scene.
And if you really, you can, I don't know about you, but I know me personally, I could sit in a room and I could tell who's going to make it, who's not going to make it, who has the drive, who doesn't have the drive, who's 100% and who's 99%. And almost everybody that you said in that show are 100%ers, guys who would and are willing, even now, to give up a lot of things to be successful because they know they have a lot of things riding on them. Before it was themselves, now it might be family, it might be, career or whatever the case is. But yeah, it's kind of crazy to think that now people that you see on TV came from a fake lucha libre company in the Northeast, but produce some of the greatest, if not the last of the best independent wrestlers, because a lot of the people that you see now up and coming are just replicas of guys before us or guys during our time, my time. And now it's kind of just like, cookie cutter guys, but people got to start somewhere, and it's a good challenge for them to challenge themselves to, be different and unique and, contribute something to wrestling that already hasn't been contributed to wrestling.
Yeah. Well, that being said, I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here a little bit, but being at places like that, seeing where people can come from those humble beginnings and then going to WB Impacts, the MLWs, you're on the scene now, you're grinding, you're working. Who are some people in some locker rooms or matches that you're consuming now on the independent scene on this Northeast area that you're watching, or even the West Coast, because you said you're there a lot? Who are some names that we should be circling or keeping an eye on?
Man, it's kind of hard to say because, again, although I see them now as 99%ers and them waiting for an opportunity or whatever, I think there is potential for some of these cats to take the next step and really stop saying that they want to do it and just do it, right? Like, I think, okay, so if we're talking about West Coast, he's all over the place now, but I need to see him more. And that's Jacob Fatu. That is the only guy that I can think of on the West Coast that is money, and I'm not saying because he's related to the Fatu fan. I'm talking about just the way he moves, talks. Generally, the person himself is a great dude and a great wrestler too.
He's hungry too. Because he comes from that lineage and he feels like he's being snubbed a little bit and he has that chip on his shoulder.
Yeah. And he also knows that he is good. Like, he is really good. He humbly knows that he's good.
Yeah.
On the East Coast, I like watching like guys like Mantequilla and I almost said Player Uno, Ichiban. Smiley, I love Smiley. He's been around for a little bit.
CMD versus Ichiban and oh crap! What I literally just had a brain fart with their name.
The something ones.
Yeah, the miracle ones.
Maybe, sure.
I think so. Great match.
Yeah.
You in that one spot with Ichiban, I was hooked.
I don't remember. I don't remember anything about that match, honestly, besides trying to put it together because I was really upset of, the younger guys like saying like, we're going to do this, and that. But my question kept saying like, why? Why are you doing it? Like, what are we trying to contribute? What are we doing in this match? Here's my mindset for the match. Ready? Here's two ways to think of it. We could either be fans of ourselves and make a highlight reel that doesn't do anything for us because we'll do it again in the next match and then make another highlight reel. So then we just wasted an opportunity to create something. Or we can create a reason for them to see this match. And my mindset was, listen, people want to see SAT. Let's give them a reason to come see SAT. That's why in the beginning we started like I was like, let's just jump the masses. Like, let's give them a reason to want to call out the SATs to come make a save. And like, I swear to God, like clockwork, it happened just how I said it was going to happen. And when we got in the back, both the SATs, who by the way are legends themselves, were like, brother,
yes,
like that's like, you got it, blah, blah. And I was like, I know I got it, but like, again, anybody can do moves. I could do moves. I could do everything you want me to do. I could do everything that people can't do, but it has to make sense for me, Agreed. And that was a lot of fun. I do like tagging with Deshaun, my boy. That's been my boy from back, like I said, back in the, even before backyard days. Me and him did amateur wrestling together. We did two, we were in different schools, but we were in the same district. So we always ran into each other. And, at the end of the day, there always has to be a reason why we're doing something, and sometimes I just, when I don't understand why, or there is no why, I get frustrated. So, but I think
it's
guys
funny
like
for how
Ichiban,
close you two are too. Is like, people gravitate to other people that have a certain mind state or a certain, like, if they inspire you or if you can feel like you can learn something from them or you just pull something from their aura.
yeah,
I felt that with you at PPW, and it reminded me of Deshaun without even knowing you two were cool. Like Deshaun's been one of those people I just
yeah.
attach myself to at every show. I'm like, just talk, and I need to absorb your energy because you're just
Yeah.
positively contagious, and I feel like a better person once I get away from you. Like,
For, he's like I said, he's always been a good brother to me. He's older than me by like 2 years, but we all, like I said, started together. And I'm a teacher at heart. Like I was a math teacher for about almost like 10 years. So while I was still wrestling. So that aspect of like giving out knowledge, like if you want the knowledge, come seek it. I'm like a calculator. You have to tell me what you want and I will tell you what you want, like, the answer. But I'm not going to just go out there and spit knowledge to people who, like I said, aren't 100%ers, or people who will just do this to my face, like just nod and like, be happy that they're there in the moment, but like don't apply it later. Like you're wasting my time, you're wasting your time. And, I just rather be very focused on like who wants it, who's hungry, who wants the shortcuts that I wasn't given and I had to learn the hard way. Because at the end of the day, the idea is to give back to wrestling and, contribute something, make it better than when you came in. So if I could help somebody get there faster, then that's where, that's my job. So.
yeah. Now, you said about a year ago on some podcasts, the ones I mentioned earlier, that you got some stuff working. You're working on 2 books. What's the status?
Yes.
What's the status of some of this? Some of this
Maybe
media
more
you're going to
books,
put
man.
out? A lot has changed in
For
a year.
sure.
You're a
I mean,
hardworking
I'm
man.
very, yeah, I'm a very, you can either think of it as hardworking or very ambitious. Like I'm very much like, I like to do it on my own. I like to be successful on my own. So the 2 books at that time I was working on was an autobiography. That ended up being a little pause because I think I'm going to end up splitting one from my time before WWE and WWE, and then one after. So I think I had to switch some stuff around and do some stuff there. And then, I had another one that I was working on, kind of like, satire to pro wrestling, but I kind of changed my mind about that one only because I want to maybe keep that more for like the pro wrestlers. So what I ended up doing was I took that book slot that I was working on a book and now focusing on my gear book. So there was a magazine that used to come out in Mexico, like the Encyclopedia de Máscaras de Lucha Libre, something like that, right? I have it in my back. And, it just highlighted all the masks in Lucha Libre, who made them, a little story about them, maybe what they were made out of. And I was like, you know what? I have enough pieces of gear that I could do this for myself. And like, just put out a couple volumes of like, here's gear from, all WWE. And like, I made this one, this date, this is when it was used and stuff like that. Because a lot of people, and for me personally, I hate selling my gear because it's hard to put a number on it when you make it yourself and you design it yourself. It's not like somebody else made it for me and I could be like, yeah, sure, give me this much. I know I made a profit. It's invaluable or priceless to me. But this was a way for me to kind of, for those collectors who really wanted a piece of my, my gear or memorabilia, they were able to get that, and still have me like keep my stuff. So I'm working on that right now. I'm working on my children's book. I'm just like working on so many things right now, but I'm not stressing about it. I'm doing it because I can and I want to, and I want to put out the product that I know I'm very happy about. For example, I made a mask for a person that they're going to be using on the 30th, and I just didn't like. There was like nobody could notice, but I'm a perfectionist, and I noticed like 2 flaws, and I was like, I got to make another one like from scratch. I just got to start over. And my son was like, "You're crazy," and I did it. But that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I want to put out something that is perfect, and I'm happy with it, and not just doing it for the money, because I'm not doing it for the money. None of this is for the money. If this was for the money, I'd still be in WWE, and I wouldn't have left a lot of money in my last 2 years. It's I'm okay being poor. I've been poor before. It don't bother me, Yeah,
I say all the time,
I got
money
people
does not
that
motivate me. My brand and my life experiences do.
Yeah, exactly. The experiences do, and it is what it is.
So we'll end on this one here. You make masks, you study masks, you do this all. Obviously this is a huge part of you. What is your top 5 masks in pro wrestling history? If you had to say like the holy grail of masks.
Okay, we're gonna go with the number 5. I'm gonna go with the original Mystical mask. I think that is a very classic / recognizable mask. I will go with the Psychosis mask, number 4. Any color, any variation. I feel like the purple and silver one sticks out to me the most when it comes to that. I will say I have some here. I think the Dos Caras mask is pretty dope. The Two-Face mask. That was also by one of the brothers, I think a brother or cousin of Psicodelico and Mil Mascaras. Just the two-tone Two-Face. I thought that was pretty unique. That would be number 3. I would say Tiger mask, number 2. Any one of those variations, and then the number 1, I actually like this mask a lot, and I could have put Ray in there, but I think other ones need love too. But number 1, I think, is going to be the shark mask from Mil Mascaras, the green one with the jaw and to me, that one was, when I first made masks, that was the first mask I made, and I wanted it for my collection. I ended up selling it or trading it for another Mil Mascaras mask. But to me, that I thought that was always so dope, just the way that it looked and how he was built and just how it was made. I thought it was so creative.
Yeah, I love also too, like Penta, when Penta does like variations of his mask to like add the comic book feel to it and stuff, because I'm a big comic nerd and like pop culture stuff. So when people change their masks and put color schemes on, like you have the Phillies color scheme one that like you're kind of like, yeah, like I love that stuff. I eat that up. Thank you once again, Lince, so much for this. It truly means the world. Like I said, this was just a scratch of the surface. There's like, please go and check out the Renee and the Chris Van Vliet's. I didn't want to recreate what you did there because I think a lot of your life experience and stuff, and I'm looking forward to your books. There's a lot you can pull from. I actually made a whole list of the books that you listed off of you and Chris going back and forth. I'm not a reader, but once again, I need to hit that next level, and if that's what's going to help me, that's what I'm doing. Yeah,
look at my bookshelf real quick. These are all books legit. They would not be on my bookshelf if I didn't read them, right? Read or audio them, but like really pay attention. And real quick, like I wasn't a big reader because being a math guy, I always like numbers more. But as I got older, I found knowledge, I found guidance in books that were very inspirational and answered a lot of questions that either I was avoiding or didn't even know I had. And I was just so fortunate that people had great recommendations. And then I went down a rabbit hole of, okay, other books like, this and that. So I would honestly, if you're not a big reader, just audiobook it, try to sit down and relax and really listen to the words. Don't just have it on the background, like really listen to the words.
Put out there for you is the one I think that's number 1 on my list.
48 Laws of Power.
Yes, that's the number 1.
That is actually the first book I always tell all my students and wrestlers to read. I'm like, I just want you to read this, and if you feel like you don't understand it or if you feel like you can't apply it, then you're probably in the wrong business. Whatever the business is, wrestling or whatever. But it is one of those things, like I said earlier, when I got in trouble, I read that. And when I came back, my whole mindset was so different. And, in a good way, I needed that mindset change because I was, very not workable. But yeah, those books, man, like changed my life, honestly.
Where can people find you? I mean, this is a kind of redundant question. You're Lince Dorado.
Sure.
But where can people find you? Where can people support you?
Sure. So, I mean, I have a one-stop shop where you can find anything, my schedule, you can find merch, you can find all my social media links to, YouTube, Instagram, X or Twitter. And that will be at luchalit.com. And if you go to the top right, you'll see all the links to, all my stuff. But that's pretty much the best place to get in contact with me. Fans can send me messages. Sometimes I answer back unless they, DM me. I'd rather them DM me because mostly the stuff on the website is like business related, bookings, interviews, merch or stuff like that. So yeah, luchalit.com is the best. Also on Twitter and YouTube, luchalit station. That way, we play games, we make gear, we chit chat and talk, watch wrestling and lucha libre, things that, other luchadors aren't doing. So, authentic luchadors, by the way. That's not a knock on anybody, but I'm just saying, there is only one guy outside of Mexico who is not Mexican and who has entered the lucha libre scene and accepted, and that's your boy, me, Lince Dorado. Everybody else is just a dude in a mask. No offense. So, at the end of the day, luchalit.com is where it's at.
What game are you playing right now? What's something you're working on?
I've been trying to get into that Texas Chainsaw Massacre game because I love the Friday game. I do love it, man, but I think it needs more maps or something. Or maybe I just need some people, like more people to play, but that game is a lot of fun. And again, I'm just going back to the original, Call of Duties and Fortnite. I play with a lot of people and play with friends. That's a good way to like hang out while getting some gaming. Single player games though, I'm not really like playing much right now. I'm waiting for like maybe a new Resident Evil or a new Pokemon to come out. There's not a lot of stuff right now that has me interested in taking time away from my family or what I'm doing outside of wrestling, to sit there in front of a computer and like, or because I play on the computer. I have a PlayStation 5 and Xbox, but I do like playing on the computer better. But yeah, right now that's where it's at.
I got the Gengar back here. If you were to make a
I did see that, man.
Pokemon mask, that's a custom made. That's a 1-of-1. That's all crocheted.
I would do this. What I would do, I would do like a mask where like it's a full covered mask. You would put the Gengar right here with his little hands hanging out and his feet hanging out here, and then the tongue coming down.
Love it.
Oh, and the ears, yeah.
Who's your Pokemon? If you had to make a Lince Pokemon mask, who would your Pokemon be?
Man, that's hard, dude. Because I'm a diehard Pokemon fan. So like anybody from the 151 to even the 251 could get it.
Yep.
I'm gonna give love to two Pokemon, even though Gengar is like one of my favorites. I'm gonna give love to two Pokemon who don't get enough love, and that's Gyarados and Victory Bell. I do like those two.
Okay.
I don't know why I do love Victory Bell. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because I killed it in the game with him or like just the way he looks, the design. I just loved it. I don't know. And then Gyarados is like, OG anime dragon of the water, like just awesome. And I love the story.
Fish.
I was gonna say, but I love the story of like the Magikarp only knows flop and splash, and like level 20. All of a sudden, it's like what, I'm gonna learn Hydro Pump and all this other stuff. So it is a good story of like good things come to those who wait. So if you can have that Magikarp, if you can have that Magikarp in your group, and it's gonna take forever to level them up, it's gonna be worth it though. It really is gonna be worth it.
Yeah. I'm waiting for. So right now I'm in a little bit of a low point for myself. But once I get my life back on track, I'm an Assassin's Creed guy. I want that new Assassin's Creed game.
I heard it went back to the original format, which is good because the first two were good, or maybe the first two were good, and then after that they were kind of like first three, and I was like, but yeah, I just like the idea of like how the first one played. I was like, oh, this is pretty good. So if it plays like that, I'm all about it.
Yeah, I like those big open world Ubisoft games like the Far Cries where you're going like liberate a country from an evil person or a cult leader. Like I love that stuff. They're the games I enjoy.
You think Ubisoft will ever put out a Splinter Cell again? I
hope so. Dude, gaming is awesome. Interesting now, man. With Xbox kind of buying up these studios, and now they own Activision, and there's a lot of properties that are been sitting dormant, and see if Xbox revitalizes them. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
If they don't revitalize them, Yeah, if they don't revitalize them, they might just give them a graphic update and like call it a new game. I'm like, oh come on,
Yeah,
I'll still play it though.
I've been really enjoying the AEW game. People have been hating on it because it's not the WWE simulation version, but it's that old school No Mercy, man. I love it. I have so much fun with it. It's so simple.
I haven't played it yet, but I have seen people play it, and it does look like a lot of fun.
I think they just put Ruby as a DLC, which I'm excited for. I gotta go play Ruby.
Oh,
She's one of my faves.
cool.
But yeah, I like it. I want more characters. I was tweeting the other day. I said, "Where's my Willow Nightingale? I need a Willow, and put Willow in the game."
And put my boy Serpentico in it too. His ass need to
Yes.
be in that.
He's another one I got to hang out with at PPW. He actually I was at the same table as him and Dalton Castle, which is one of the most entertaining people I've ever got to hang out with as well.
Yeah.
He's nuts, man.
Yeah, PPW brings in good guys and girls, man, because every time I see them, it's always somebody new, but like somebody good, and it's always a good person, like not just a name or anything. It's just like a really genuinely good person.
Yeah, they do a lot of fun work there. But thank you so much once again for your time in recording this.
Absolutely.
100 episodes in, I couldn't have picked a better person or got lucky enough with a person to hit that 100 episode with. Can't wait to see what you're doing more. I hope by the time this airs, it says Lince is all elite. And when I make the trip across the pond to London again, I get to see you in Wembley Stadium, which is my favorite venue of all time.
This one I'm going to say. It's not going to say Lince is all elite. It's going to say AEW is lucha lit. That's what I'm going to say.
Love that. Well, that's the graphic I need. And once it goes, I'm going to mark out for it, because you're one of those people, man, who more people should be aware of, and just you as not just as a talent, but you as a person. For me, that's what makes my favorite wrestlers. The people, when you meet them, they're genuinely good humans, and you can pull stuff from them and you hear their stories. And that's why I love like this genre of journalism and podcasting, where you have the Renees and the Chris Van Fleets, because they're good at pulling those personalities out of people, and you get to see them besides their character. And I think that's super important for the business. I know kayfabe is a big thing, but it's okay.
But it's definitely
those aspects.
It's a testament to you too, because like we could sit here and just have a generic pro wrestling conversation, and I felt like I was talking to my brother, and like that's why I said you can ask me whatever you want, we'll talk about whatever. So I hope nothing but good things for your podcast coming up. Make it to 100 is a testament to itself. So to 100 more, to 1,000 more.
Hopefully, I'll keep grinding. I keep putting the work in. How you said before, investing in yourself. I also do the commentary side of things. And I remember I just got tired of showing up at shows and like the audio sounded terrible. So I went out and bought my own setup. Like the setup they used at Win. I didn't even get to do commentary that show, but I brought it because it was one of those things where you said like show up and see what happens. I showed up and they're like, hey, we don't have a commentary setup, or we have one that's not as good. And I'm like, I have one in the trunk. And I just gave them a setup to use, and I gave them another hard cam, so they were able to have 2 different hard cams going, and I just got to sit and enjoy a show, and my equipment went to use. I don't know, just like how you said, invest in yourself, be willing to make the drive and go out there and meet people and network. And I'm glad I did that day because it was a fun show.
Are you going back to Win in December? I think I'm going to be there.
I might. Right now I'm in a situation where I don't have a vehicle. My car, so I was doing like a lot of driving and my car died, and I just didn't have I don't have the funds right now to get my car fixed. So I'm in that process trying to get that done. So I'm in that grind stage right now. I have to kind of go back to a shoot job and work those disgusting factory hours just so I can get my life back on track. Yeah.
Same. I feel that, bro. I feel that because I was tempted to do the same, go back to civilian life is what we call it, I guess. And a little bit of me was like, I don't know if the first time my boss tries to say something to me, I might have to like slap him, and I'm like, shut up, like, and I can't do that there. So I might as well just work for myself and continue, just grinding,
You're one of those people, man. I know Deshaun's over at CZW, and you named up a whole bunch of good schools that you like, Catch Point and a bunch of other places, man. You would be valuable in this scene, just helping the next generation come up, and just you're a good mind, man, and you're a good person. And if people ever see you doing a seminar, they should 100% sign up for it.
Appreciate it. I do seminars. I do lucha camps, whether it's like, 1 day seminar or the day before or the day of the show, or I actually just did a 2-day lucha libre camp in South Carolina. So, I do, like I said, I'm a teacher at heart. I love teaching. I love, giving knowledge to those who are hungry and want it. So if you're ever interested or know anybody interested in doing a seminar, not just lucha libre, but just in general, to learn the style, that's what I call it. Cause that's my little I don't have a school, but I have a spot that I do training. And I said, come learn the style, you know, and it's not just like WWE style or Lucha Libre style. Come learn the style that is exciting and riveting and people want to, you know, captivating. So that way people can't turn away, you know? So yeah, I appreciate that, man. I love doing what I do. I love teaching. I love wrestling, and I love creating content for my fans and myself too.
It shows. It definitely shows. Well, that's going to do it for the ABJ podcast, episode 100 with Lucha Lit, Lince Dorado. Like I said, check out the links below to follow him, support him, buy merchandise, get stuff made. Even if you're not a wrestler, just get a cool mask made because it's going to be a dope mask from your favorite star. And it's going to be made by an amazing person. So do that. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you guys next time on the ABJ podcast. Here's some music by the Converse Kid. We'll see you next time.